Ever find yourself watching maybe a British TV show and a word just stops you,
Yeah.
makes you pause?
Or maybe you've got an American friend and they use a phrase that sounds just a bit strange to your ear.
Exactly. English is everywhere, but it has these, well, wondrously quirky variations. And today we're diving into two big ones, British English and American English.
It really is fascinating how they've branched out from, the same roots. And for you listening, getting a handle on these differences isn't just like trivia.
No, it's practical.
It really is. It helps communication flow better, and you get a richer feel for the cultures, too.
Totally. So for this deep dive, we've pulled together some really interesting stuff on where they diverge. We'll be tuning into pronunciation.
The sound.
Getting into the different words people use, the vocabulary.
Right.
And even looking at some, subtle grammar points.
And the goal here is really to equip you with a better sense of it all so you can pick up on these things in conversation or when you're reading or watching something.
Yeah, navigate it all with a bit more confidence. Maybe even have a little chuckle about it sometimes.
It's like unlocking a new level.
Yeah, think it that way. So we'll kick off with how they sound, different pronunciation nuances. Then tackle vocabulary mix-ups.
Then a bit on grammar.
And finally, listen to a couple of quick examples to hear it all working together. Okay, let's jump in. Sounds first.
Right. And it's amazing how small phonetic shifts can make things sound quite different overall. The letter R is a classic example.
Oh yeah, the rhotic R. That's a big one people notice, isn't it?
Definitely.
So in American English, that R sound is usually quite strong. You hear it clearly wherever it is. Like in car, that R is definitely there.
Exactly. But in a lot of British English, especially, say, received pronunciation, that final R or an R before a consonant often just disappears.
Goes silent.
Right. Unless the next word starts with a vowel sound. So car becomes more like caw, just the long vowel.
It gives a different flow, doesn't it?
It really does. One source we looked at put it nicely. British English can sound maybe smoother, while American English sounds a bit more,
R heavy.
Yeah, R heavy, exactly. More pronounced R's.
Okay, so that's the R. What else? The T sound comes up a lot, too.
Ah, yes, the T. Very noticeable, especially when it's between vowels.
So in American English, that T often softens right up, doesn't it? It becomes almost like a quick
The
D.
flap T.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
water often sounds like c'est a dare. More like water.
That's a great example. The T gets voiced. But in some British English accents, especially around London maybe, that middle T or even a T at the end of a syllable,
It can disappear.
well, it becomes a glottal stop, that little catch in your throat, like an uh-oh. So water might be more like itchix, that little pause.
Right. It's subtle, but you hear it. It changes the rhythm.
Exactly. The listening tip mentioned that American English might sound a bit more connected because of that flap T, different rhythm.
Okay. And then there are the actual vowel sounds themselves. Loads of differences there.
Oh, absolutely. A whole world of difference sometimes, even in simple words.
Like bath. That's the classic one, isn't it?
It is. In British English, often that longer open sound, like in father. So bath,
Whereas in American English, it's usually shorter, more like the A in cat, bat.
bath. Yeah. Bath versus bath.
So the general idea is British vowels can sometimes be a bit longer, more open sounding.
That's a good way to think about it. Maybe held a little longer.
Okay, cool. So our ears should be a bit more tuned in now. Let's switch gears to vocabulary. This is where things can get properly confusing.
Yes. This is where context is just everything. Sometimes it's a totally different word.
Right.
Other times, maybe the same word, but used slightly differently.
Yeah, and we found a great list comparing some common ones. Like, in Britain, you live in a flat.
But in the U.S., that's your apartment.
Same place, different name. Or a big vehicle carrying goods.
In the U.K., it's a lorry.
And in America, it's a truck.
Simple switch.
Then there's clothing. Trousers in British English,
Are pants in American English.
which can lead to some awkwardness because pants in British English means underwear.
Exactly. Got to be careful with that one.
Okay, time off work or school.
Brits take a holiday.
Americans take a vacation.
Right. And that sweet snack, often with tea or coffee,
A British biscuit.
is usually an American cookie. Though biscuit in the U.S. is something quite different, isn't it? More like a stone.
Oh yeah, true. See, more confusion. And the massive one, sports.
Ah, yes. The beautiful game.
What most of the world, including Britain, calls football.
Is soccer in the United States.
Because American football is, well, a very different sport involving helmets and an oblong ball.
Precisely. And that just underscores the point about context, doesn't it? If someone talks about a football match, you really need to know where they are to picture the right game.
Totally. It's like needing a little pop-up dictionary sometimes. Okay, so sounds, words. What about grammar? Are there big differences there?
They tend to be a bit more subtle, I think, less likely to cause total confusion, maybe, but definitely noticeable stylistic preferences.
Okay, like the present perfect tense.
Yeah.
Using have plus the past participle.
Right. So in British English, it's very natural to say something like, I've just eaten.
Mm-hmm. Sounds fine.
And you might hear that in American English too, but it feels perhaps a little more common to just use the simple past.
So I just ate.
Exactly. I just ate is very common in Amy, where Bree might favor I've just eaten.
Okay, so the tip there is you might hear the simple past more for recent actions in American English. Got it. What else? Collective nouns, like team.
Ah, yes, that's an interesting one. In British English, you can often treat nouns like team, government, company as plural.
Thinking of the individuals within the group.
Precisely. So you might hear the team are winning or the committee are discussing it.
But in American English,
Almost always singular. The team is winning. The committee is discussing it. The group is treated as one single unit.
subtle, but yeah, you'd notice that.
And then there are just a few little differences with prepositions, those small words like at, on, in.
Right, like time expressions.
Yeah, a Brit might say at the weekend.
Whereas an American would usually say on the weekend.
Or talking about being unwell in hospital in British English.
In the hospital in American English. Needs that the.
Tiny differences, but they add up to the overall different flavor of the language.
Okay, so we've hit pronunciation, vocab, and grammar. Let's try putting it together, like listening in on a quick chat.
Good idea. Let's imagine hearing two people describing a similar situation. See if you can spot the clues.
Okay, first one. Imagine someone says, I was stuck in traffic, so I had to take the lift up to the flat before the meeting started.
Okay, so listening to that, what words jump out as clues to where they might be from?
Well, straight away, lift instead of elevator and flat instead of apartment. Those feel very British to me.
Spot on. Those are strong indicators. You'd be pretty safe guessing speaker A is British.
Okay, now let's hear speaker B. I got stuck in traffic, so I had to take the elevator up to the apartment before the meeting began.
And here.
Easy switch. Elevator and apartment.
Oh.
That sounds typically American.
Exactly. It's quite clear how those vocabulary choices alone can signal the speaker's likely origin.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, in a real longer conversation, you'd probably pick up the accent differences too, the pronunciation stuff we talked about.
It all combines to create that distinct BRE or AME feel.
So hopefully going through all this has given you, our listener, a much clearer picture of these fascinating differences. It's not about right or wrong, is it?
Not at all. Just different paths the language has taken. And, being aware of them is genuinely useful.
Yeah, how so?
Well, it sharpens your listening, definitely. Makes you a bit more flexible when you communicate. And it just builds confidence when you're talking to people from different places or watching international media.
Makes sense. Which leads nicely to a question that came up in the research, one for you listening. Which style do you find yourself preferring? British English? American English?
Or maybe, like a lot of people, you find yourself using a bit of both. It's interesting how our own preferences develop, isn't it?
It really is. And maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah.
Think about all the English you hear and read. Films, music, websites, books. How much of that exposure, maybe unconsciously, has shaped your own ear?
Interesting point.
Are you maybe picking up and using British phrases or American ones without even fully realizing where they came from? Something to perhaps pay attention to in your own language use.